ABC News getting hit with a doozy just overnight. The president saying, you know what? Maybe we don't need ABC. Maybe we could be looking at taking away their FCC license. Did you hear that, Bob Iger? And it has a little something to do with, well, this lady right here. You see Donna Brazile, former Fox person, by the way. But don't forget, Donna was the one who got in a lot of trouble because apparently when she was working for CNN, she got her hands on the questions ahead of the debate, and then she transferred those over to Hillary Clinton's team. So, you know, ethically speaking, let's just say she is not in any way, shape, or form a journalist. She is a Democrat Party op. And when you turn, this is CNN's fault, questions over to the Democrat Party op, what do you think is going to happen? All right. So then she wound up getting hired, oddly, by Fox, and then went back to ABC. And now she's on that show on the weekend that George Stephanopoulos hosts. Maybe not for long. We'll talk about that. And Donald Trump came out with this doozy this morning. Why does fake news, ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, have low IQ commentator Donna Brazile on the show? Wasn't she totally discredited when she gave crooked Hillary Clinton the questions to a debate? Yeah, you would think, right? Like, again, you can't do that. But let me just say, political op, had no interest whatsoever in actually doing anything with journalistic integrity or, frankly, any kind of integrity. I mean, look, I know her. Okay, she's a funny lady. She actually is very funny. Really, if you hire her for a speech, she'll tell a joke a minute. But let's be very clear. She's working for one side and one team. And so then you put her on the show as though she's some kind of, you know, fair expert alongside none other than Chris Christie. And he goes on about Chris Christie too. He says, Donna is dumb as a rock and a liar besides. She and sloppy Chris Christie, he really doesn't like the look of Chris Christie, should be fired from a highly discredited ABC fake news. They just paid me $16 million for inaccurate reporting. Now they should pay me more. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President DJT. Listen, you know, they did just pay him $16 million. $15 million for the library, $1 million for the legal fees because Georgie Poo decided to go way out over his skis, ignore his producers, and say something that was very libelous to the man who was then running for president, I guess in hopes that he wouldn't win. But guess what? He gets the last laugh because he won anyway. He won anyway. And now Georgie had to issue an apology, and Georgie's apparently really not happy about any of this. I mean, but Donna and Chris Christie, I mean, what's funny about it, right? Like, if you think about it, guys, they are trying to put a Republican on to defend Donald Trump. And the best they can come up with is Chris Christie. Despite, he writes, this is last week, a very high popularity, and according to many, among the greatest 8 months in presidential history. ABC and NBC fake news, two of the worst and the most biased networks in history, give me a 97% bad stories. That's interesting. He says 97%. I know Media Matters has put it at 92, 93%. Whatever it is, it's above 90%. It's nearly all bad. If that is the case, they are simply an arm of the Democrat Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they're so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. Wow. Okay, so you see what we're talking about, and he has the power to do that. Brandon Carver at the FCC has the power to do that because these networks and their affiliates basically exist because they're over federal airwaves, which are controlled by the FCC. So this is a big deal, and this is a big threat. Listen, he has no use for Donna Brazile. I was looking through the show to see like what it is that she said that was so provoking. I think it's like accumulation of things because she's just been kind of for a while. He says she's really dumb, and we've seen examples of that in the past. I'm just going to say it's not necessarily that she's dumb. I do think the Democrats are pretty dumb because how could you do what you're doing? I mean, how could you just throw away your entire party like that unless you really were dumb? But, you know, he says she's low IQ. I want to give you a little sampling of one Ms. Donna Brazile.
Well, Donna, as you've worked in several presidential campaigns, it's hard to wrap your head around a presidential campaign that is playing out in criminal court.
George, I've never been here before, and I never thought in the years, almost 30 years that I worked in presidential politics and campaigns, that I would ever have to figure out some talking points when your opponent, in the case of Donald Trump, is sitting in court all day and not on the campaign trail. So you have very little to react from. And what I see coming from what I often refer to as the messaging points from the Democrats is, hey, go ahead and point out what Joe Biden is doing for the American people, how he's lifting people out of poverty, how he's providing jobs, getting industries back on their feet, and don't get into the salacious, lurid details of this court case.
Actually, she might be dumb. I think he's right. I mean, her advice, don't forget, that was before the election. Her advice, and that was before they brought Kamala Harris in, was to just tout all the great things that you were doing for the American people and how great the economy was. I mean, wow, she really is dumb because there was nothing great about that economy. Let me be very clear. When you're looking at 9.7% inflation, whatever it was, not to mention double digits on the producer price index, there's nothing good about that economy. It was a train wreck of an economy. And then think about what we lived through. We had to be so careful what you said because we didn't live in a meritocracy anymore. No. You could get picked for a gig just because of your skin color or your sexual preference. I mean, it was a nightmare. It was illegal. DEI is getting wiped out. Bye, DEI. It is over, complete, done. Harvard learned it the hard way. And now ABC is about to learn it the hard way. Because there's a big investigation going on into ABC and Disney's efforts to engage in DEI. They were all over it, right? They wanted to make sure that they had certain affinity groups. They wanted to make sure that they had a certain number of people on television that represented a certain number of, you know where I'm going. I mean, this was constant. And now the FCC has said, well, that's actually illegal. You can't give somebody a job just based on, it's constitutionally illegal. And so now they're left scrambling. They got rid of the DEI program. But guess what? Brandon Carr said, I'm not just listening and looking at what you guys are doing right now. I'm going into the past. I'm going to go backwards in time. I'm going to see what else you did. So again, he doesn't like her. He thinks she's sloppy. He thinks she's low IQ. I'm telling you, if you think that you're going to sit there and tell us that Joe Biden's economy was just fantastic, you really are low IQ. But then there was this doozy.
Donald Trump is something totally different.
Chris, I think you identify the tariffs as the number one issue. Liberation Day, probably the most consequential day of the first 100 days. Is there an exit strategy for Donald Trump on this? We heard Reince Priebus say basically he's going to double down, but can he make this sort of series of deals that limit the damage?
Well, it depends on what those deals look like, George. And I will tell you that if you look at the reaction of the rest of the world, the biggest problem is that the world now just sees us as an unreliable partner.
Right.
And Donald Trump, I believe, misevaluated that. I think he thought he could come in and bully them and just say, we're the biggest economy in the world, and you may not like what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. What he didn't count on was the effect it's had on the bond market as well. And the problem there is that we're now looking at a real potential for stagflation, to have an economy that is in recession, which we're one quarter towards that now. We had a recessionary report in the last quarter.
Well, the job market the report on Friday was pretty solid.
Right. So we'll see whether that translates, George, into GDP growth or not. We don't know whether it will or it won't. We'll see next quarter. I hope it does, because that'd be good for everybody.
Okay, I have to stop him. All right, we're going to get to George in just a second, but I have to stop him because you know what? The economy is actually not doing that bad. The economy is actually doing pretty good. I'm looking at the new print that came out last week on second quarter GDP. That's the overall size of the economy. Everybody thought it grew 3%. Guess what? It grew 3.3%. That's pretty darn good. Thank you very much. And then you think about wages. They're going up on an annualized basis of 5%. We haven't seen that not any time, that I can think of recently. This is all good news. In terms of the tariffs, for him to say, the bond market's freaking out. Well, guess what? The bond market's not freaking out. And the stock market kept going up and away and continues to do so. We'll see what happens. I don't know if you guys saw, of course, on Friday, late Friday, we did see that the court ruled that, and it's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Mind you, it's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. The court ruled that Donald Trump's tariffs were not legal, but he responded with this. Let me show you here. All tariffs are still in effect today. A highly partisan appeals court incorrectly said our tariffs should be removed. But they know the United States of America will win in the end. If these tariffs ever went away, it would be a total disaster for our country. And he goes on. In other words, he's saying these things, they are here to stay no matter what Chris Christie or Georgie Poo or Donna have to say about it, or the court, right? The lower court. Again, he'll abide by the Supreme Court, but that's where it's ultimately going to go. And I don't know quite the answer to that. We will see. We will see what the answer is to that. But I'll say this, guys, you get an FCC that means business. And I mean it, like not just for this particular show, but for, that other show that's off the air right now that I don't think is coming back.
That again? That was not Obama. The thing about him is that he's so jealous of Obama because Obama is everything that he is not.
Yeah.
Trim. Smart. Handsome.
Happily married. And can sing Al Green's song, Let's Stay Together, better than Al Green. Yeah.
And Trump cannot stand it. It's driving him crazy. Jealousy is not green is not a good color.
That from yesterday. Who knows what happens today? The White House chose to respond to that. And this is what they said. Joy Behar is an irrelevant loser suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. It's no surprise that The View's ratings hit an all-time low last year. She should self-reflect on her own jealousy of President Trump's historic popularity before her show is the next to be pulled off air, end quote. Is The View now in the crosshairs of this administration?
Look, it's entirely possible that there's issues over there. I mean, again, stepping back, this broader dynamic, once President Trump has exposed these media gatekeepers and smashed this facade, there's a lot of consequences. I think the consequences of that aren't quite finished. And look, The View's got a lot of challenges there. It wasn't that long ago, I think one episode, one show alone, they had to stop, interrupt the show, and read 4 separate legal notices to try to avoid legal liability. So I'm not surprised to hear people saying that their ratings are struggling.
Well, sir, where does this end then?
Look, I think we need a course correction. It's time for America's legacy broadcasters to return to promoting the public interest. And just recently, Skydance, which is looking to acquire CBS, wrote letters to the FCC committing to serious change, to trying to root out bias, to putting in place an ombudsman that would address these issues, to returning to unbiased, trustworthy journalism. That's where we have to go. And I think we're getting some wins along the way. It's trust but verify at the end of the day. We're not where we need to go. But I think this legacy media really needs to reorient, or they're going to continue to run into issues like Colbert, where it just doesn't make economic sense to run a partisan circus.
Exactly. View, did you hear that? Jimmy Fallon, did you hear that? Oh, Seth Meyers over at NBC. Did you hear that? Because he doesn't like you very much either. Neither do I, frankly. I don't like you at all. And I say that as somebody who's lived free or die in New Hampshire, as were you. He actually was in high school with my cousin. Maybe that's why I dislike him even more. You probably don't even know who he is. He has some late night show. Anyway, point being that all of these networks are so insanely negative against Donald Trump that after a while, it's like, okay, you're the little boy who cried wolf. And guess what? America rejected you. And this is one of the things that Brendan Carr said. I mean, these guys are in big trouble. Let me just tell you, because once you lose your FCC accreditation, you're going to lose your license to actually broadcast, which means you are completely out of business. And he's looking at this. He already sent Bob Iger, head of Disney, which owns ABC, a letter back in December, and then he followed it up with one this spring. But one of the critical things he mentioned was that Americans no longer trust the national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly. So if you don't have a media that's actually willing to show both sides, then why are you allowing them access to the public airwaves? And let me just say, if Brendan Carr decides to take their licenses away, as Donald Trump has suggested he do, again, why is it that ABC and NBC fake news, two of the absolute worst and most biased networks anywhere in the world, aren't paying millions of dollars in licensing fees? He's saying maybe we actually ought to charge them to use those licensing fees. Either that, right? Or take away They should have their licenses revoked by the FCC, he writes. So any way you slice this, the danger for these networks at this point is that they're going to lose distribution. I mean, maybe it's the best thing that could happen to them, right? Because once you lose the FCC airways, oh gosh, darn it, then you actually have to compete over here. In streaming land. Reminder, subscribe, share, like, do all that stuff. Make a comment. Tell me what you think. I mean, could they hack it over here? Could they actually have any success at all over in streaming land? I don't think so. I mean, they've got a Disney Plus thing that they're trying to get going, and it's just been a disaster. Hulu got folded into all that, or was it Tubi? Forgive me. I mean, it's a mess, right? It's a mess. And they can't get that thing off the ground. Gary's metal detecting. Good to see you back in the house on this Labor Day. Wonderful to have you here. I appreciate your generosity. I'm sorry about the ankle surgery. I am very sorry about that, but hopefully you'll be up and running and walking around in no time soon. If they don't have distribution, then they're over. And so he has the power to totally remake their businesses, shut down their businesses, change them forever. And I think they know that. I think they're scared. But if they were that scared, why wouldn't they do anything about it? I mean, why would you still put all these morons on the air? Why would you still be putting The View on the air? Maybe you wouldn't. In fact, my intel is that they're looking at this very hard. The View might actually go away. The View might actually go away because it's a very expensive production to produce. They've got a lot of big salaries. And they got to pay a lot of people on the staff. I mean, heck, you get a live studio audience, for example. And then you get all these people that just sit there and bash the president day in and day out. I'm not even going to play it because I've played it so many times for you, and I know we're all so darn sick of it, listening to Whoopi and Joy and the nauseating things that they say, and then there's no one to push back. Okay, they don't have, it's very interesting over at ABC because who are their conservatives? I mean, at least CNN, it's always like 8 against 1, puts on Scott Jennings, who can actually hold his own. But MSNBC doesn't bother. And ABC doesn't bother. They put on the sort of never-Trumper types like Chris Christie. Or like, I can't even remember her name, the woman with the long brown hair that just kind of tries to be nice. Alyssa gets along with everybody there. She can't hold her own against the likes of Whoopi and Joy. She seems quite terrified of them. So you have like this one-sided program, and America's tired of it. America doesn't buy it. And now you're coming up on the new fall season with a president who every Sunday night, going into Monday morning, is saying, you know what, I may take away your FCC license, ABC. I may just get rid of it altogether. So how do you go into the new fall season with a show like The View while you're reviewing it, quote unquote, reviewing it for its bias, and say, yeah, we're going to keep this thing on the air? I mean, again, like, it's just business. Bob Iger, do the sensible thing. Get rid of it. Save yourself and your shareholders a lot of money. Or hire somebody who can actually hold their own against the likes of Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know who that person is, because any smart, intelligent, conservative woman, you're looking at one, wouldn't be so stupid as to go on that show. There's no amount of money that you could pay me to go lug my cookies into ABC News in New York City every day and have to deal with that. It just wouldn't be worth it. So I'm not really sure what their answer is other than to get rid of the show. And this is what, by the way, Rosie O'Donnell was saying quite recently, that, the handwriting's on the wall. She hates to be the one to have to tell them. But this is the executive's kind of nice way. When they say, we're reviewing this for bias, this is their nice way of saying, we're going to get rid of this show. And I would say, you know what? Donald Trump is sort of single-handedly helping these companies to remake their businesses in more profitable ways. And they ought to all send him a thank you note. because that show is what we would call long in the tooth. It's been around too long. It's completely diverted from its original goal. No matter how many times they ask these performers, their quote unquote talent, to, try and do other things, maybe do some entertainment news, maybe talk about Taylor Swift, maybe talk about cultural issues. No. They want to go back to Trump. They're like broken records. It's all they can talk about. They wouldn't even have a show if it weren't for one Donald Trump. Like, they wouldn't. I saw a clip the other day. Actually, Joe Rogan played it, and it was hysterical because it was Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg kissing his you-know-what. They were just like, oh, Donald Trump. This was like from, 15 years ago, 12 years ago. They were like, you are fantastic. You are amazing. Some people say you might even run for president one day. You've seen the Oprah clip, somewhat similar. So they used to just fall all over him. And now he's a dictator. How many times have they told us that? I mean, listen, it's irresponsible journalism. It's not even journalism, right? It's irresponsible television. And it's on our federally controlled, owned airwaves. So you know what? Revoke that license ASAP. Let them compete out in the real world. Let them stream. Let them see if they can be a success. Like us, right? We're coming up on 1 million subs. Thank you so much for all of that, you guys. It's just incredible to see.